Do you ever find yourself doing repetitive tasks on your computer and you think to yourself, I know this could be automated? Well, what's cool is a lot of stuff can be automated using an Arduino and the USB libraries that come pre-installed in the Arduino IDE. This lesson is part 2 in a series doing a deep dive into those USB libraries. In the previous lesson, we talked about controlling your keyboard with Arduino. In this lesson, you're going to learn how to use the Arduino to emulate your mouse. We're going to go through every single function in the mouse USB library. You're going to learn the ins and outs of each function, which functions don't work. You'll learn to avoid the common mistakes when you're programming with the mouse library. Then we'll demonstrate a really simple program to move the mouse around and do some keyboard controls that I've been using when I'm writing test code for Python. Stay tuned. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to get more videos like this. All right, let's dive right in. First off, it's important to know that the USB mouse library that comes pre-installed on the Arduino IDE doesn't work with all types of Arduino boards. It only works with a specific subset of Arduino boards. And those are the ones that are designed with the 32U4 or the CMD micro-based boards. So that's going to be your Leonardo, Explora, Zero, a Duo, the Micro, and the Maker family boards. So if you're trying to use this on an Arduino or a Mega, it's not going to work. It's these other ones that can emulate a USB. That's where these USB libraries will function. Now we're talking about these USB libraries, and if you go to the Arduino reference, which is my favorite page on the Arduino website, and you go to libraries, down at the bottom you can see there are 2 USB libraries, the keyboard library and the mouse library. Now the keyboard library we talked about in the previous video. So if you're interested in controlling the keyboard with your Arduino, definitely check out the previous video. We walked through every single one of these functions. And just like this library, the mouse library, which we're going to look at today, has a very similar setup. You're going to be able to click with the mouse. You'll be able to move your mouse around, press the mouse, release the mouse, check if the mouse is released. Some pretty straightforward functions, but we're going to walk through each one of them so you'll know how to use all of these. So right here, these are all of the functions inside the mouse library. Now, like I mentioned, the mouse and keyboard library, these are the USB libraries, they come pre-installed on the Arduino IDE. And these are all the functions in the mouse library. But if we want to use these functions in our sketch, we still need to include the library. And that would look like this. This line of code right here is going to tell the program, hey, we're going to be using functions from this mouse library. If you try to run this program, but you don't include the mouse library, it's not going to know what any of these functions are. So that's an important step. Now, if you didn't want to type it out, what you could do is go up to Sketch, include library, which is what we're doing. And then if you come down to Arduino libraries, you'll see the mouse is already there. These are Arduino libraries. These are all the ones that come pre-installed for you. And you would just click mouse and it just inserts that mouse line. Same exact thing, but different way to do it. So now what I'm going to do is write a little bit of code to kind of get this set up. And then we're going to walk through each of these functions step by step. If you watched the previous video about using the keyboard library, the code I'm about to write is going to look really familiar to you, but we'll talk about it again in case you didn't catch that video. Here we go. All right, so I've got some code written right here. You might be wondering, what is all this other code that's going on? Well, here's the basic idea. This is what's happening here. I have a button set up on my Arduino. I'm using a kit on a shield for Arduino. It's a circuit board we sell. It's got 2 buttons on it. One of them happens to be at pin 5. So what I'm doing is I'm saying, hey, there's this button at pin 5. I'm setting it as an input. And when I read from this button, when I read the value at the button, right? So I'm reading this button pin. I want to see whether or not the button's being pressed. If the button is being pressed, then I want to run the code that I'm calling from the mouse library. If I'm not pressing the button, I don't want to run any of this code. So the way this button is set up, it's normally low. So there's a low voltage at that pin. We're setting it as an input. when you press the button, the voltage goes high. So digital read is going to read pin 5. If it sees high voltage, that would be a 1 or a true value. And so this if statement is only going to run if the condition inside here is true. So if I am pressing the button, then we run this code. If I'm not pressing the button, we don't. And the reason that we have this protection in here, the reason I set up this whole code construct is because we don't want the mouse to be doing things unless we explicitly tell it to do things. Because what can happen, and as I demonstrated in the previous keyboard video, is that when you plug your Arduino in, if you've got the program doing some crazy stuff with the mouse, then it's going to immediately start doing that crazy stuff with the mouse. You might be pressing buttons here and there, moving your mouse around, trying to resize a screen or whatever it's going to be doing. And unless you can stop that behavior with a button press or start that behavior with a button press, then it can get a little bit tricky to kind of reprogram the code if you need to. So hopefully that makes a little sense. As we go through this lesson, we might see how that comes into effect, just by me screwing up the code here. But anyway, let's go ahead and start diving into these functions. Do you need a printed circuit board design software to move your prototype to the next level? Altium Designer is a great choice for designing PCBs, sharing your design with team members, and even getting your design manufactured. What really kind of blows me away about this software is that even though it's a super powerful tool, at the same time, it's really intuitive to use. They've got helpful video tutorials built right into the software so you can kickstart your learning process and actually get something made. Right now, you can get a free trial to Altium Designer with our link in the description. That's right, you can test drive this super powerful software with a free trial. Just check out the link in the description. All right, so the first two functions we're going to talk about are mouse.begin and mouse.end. And here's the thing. You would think that if you sandwich between the begin and the end function, so mouse begin, you'd think that if you put some of this other mouse code inside here, that this other mouse code, these other functions would only work when begin has been called, and then they would stop working when mouse end was called. Unfortunately, these two functions are not implemented in the actual library. So if you go to the Arduino GitHub and you go to the mouse library and you come to the library file, the CPP file for the mouse library, and that's the one we're using, you can notice that these two functions right here, begin and end, have not been implemented. There's just shells here. There's no actual code that runs when these functions are called. So unfortunately, they don't work yet. Maybe someday they'll get implemented. Right now, they don't work. So you can kind of forget about these functions for now. So hey, that's the first two. Don't worry about using them. Now, if you go to the Arduino reference in the documentation for the mouse library, it's just a little bit confusing because they still have these mouse begin and mouse end functions. And if you go to mouse begin, it will tell you that this is when it begins emulating the mouse to the computer. It says the begin function must be called before controlling the computer. To end the control, use mouse end. So it would be cool if these worked, but currently, in my understanding, they're not implemented and it doesn't work. And as I was trying to make it work, it wasn't working. So anyway, just that's a heads up for you. Maybe someday, like I said, it will get implemented, but it doesn't get implemented. Similar with the keyboard library, the keyboard begin and keyboard end also are not implemented. Okay, so that's those two functions. The next function we're going to talk about is mouse.click. So, I wonder what mouse.click does. What could this possibly do? Well, when this function is called, wherever your mouse happens to be on the screen, it is going to input a click function. So a click is when it's pressed and released. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to just double check. I'm using a Leonardo for developing this. So I'm just going to go to my board. So it's an AVR board. I've got Leonardo selected in the boards. I go to port, make sure I've got my Leonardo selected. So then I'm going to click verify, and then I'll upload this to the board. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my mouse right here on upload. So you can see my mouse is on top of the upload button. And then on my kit on a shield, I'm just going to press this button, where pin 5 is attached. So here we go. All right, did you see that? Did you see how it clicked that for me? That's pretty cool. Like, let's say I went up to file. I promise I'm not pressing any buttons on my trackpad that's connected to my computer. So I'm just going to click right here. See if we can. Okay, now did you see that behavior? Look at that. That's pretty crazy, right? Now I'm gonna click edit, watch this. Do you see how many times it did that? What's going on here? Well, this is what's weird about this, or somewhat weird. When I press the button, right? I press and release the button. This loop is running really fast, faster than I could possibly actually click. And so what's happening is this function is getting called several times, even when I just press and release the button really quick. So if we only want one mouse press to if we only want this to get called once, one easy way to do this, just a simple dirty fix, is to throw a delay in here. So let me do that. So here's a half-second delay. And now when I go up here, let's upload. Here what we'll do. I'm gonna go ahead and press the button to upload it. That's kind of cool, using the sketch to upload itself. All right, so I uploaded it. Now I'm gonna take the mouse, I'm gonna come up here and I wanna open up, let's open up tools. So I've got the mouse positioned up there and I'm gonna press that button again. And this time we shouldn't see it happening multiple times. All right, let's do that. All right, just did it once. And then, so now I'm just going to take my normal mouse control. If I click it, so I just clicked it and released it, opened it, and if I click it again, so now it's kind of behaving more as we'd expect. So that little delay helps, debounce the multiple clicks that would be happening. So hopefully that makes sense. Now what I'm going to do is try a little experiment here, right? What if I didn't have mouse click inside this little if statement, right? So when I upload, now I want you to think about this. What is going to happen when I upload this sketch? So when I upload this sketch loop, we're going to have this tight loop, right? And the only thing that's going to be happening is what? Well, mouse.click. So mouse.click is going to be happening over and over and over. So anywhere I move my mouse, there's going to be a click happening. So it's going to be a little interesting. Hopefully it doesn't screw us up, but I think you'll get an idea how screwed up this can get. All right. So again, this mouse click is outside of the if statement. We haven't protected it, so I don't have to press the button on the kit on a shield anymore. This is just going to go ahead and start clicking everywhere. So let me use the mouse to upload it, and then we'll see what happens here. So I'm uploading it right now. And so now, okay, now look at that. Do you see everything is just starting to click wherever I move the mouse, things are clicking. So that's kind of, So what I'm going to try to do is, you can see how weird this behavior is, right? And can you see how at this point it's a little bit difficult for me, because what I need to do is I need to comment this out and then I need to upload it so that this behavior doesn't happen, right? So let me try this. Let's see if we can get anything in here. All right. Oh, this could be trouble. So I hope you see now why this is so important. All right, man, I can't even get a keyboard press in to comment it out. Oh, I got something in there. So hopefully you see how difficult this is, or how screwed up this is. Let's see here. Almost got something. Let's see. Maybe I can delete that line. Let's try that. Yeah, this is crazy. It's just doing all types of nutty stuff now. All right, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm kind of in a bit of a conundrum, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and unplug my Arduino. All right, so I'm going to unplug the Arduino. Now notice that the mouse is still going crazy, and that's because this command, that mouse command, had been being fed into my computer for, let's see. I'm curious to see how long this is actually going to run. It's probably going to run a while. All right, looks like I've got control of the mouse again. So all of those mouse clicks that had been entered, right? So there was this queue, all those mouse clicks had been entered into the queue on the port on my computer, right? And that they were having to play out, and now they've all finally played out. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and open that file again. So here's this file. Let me see if I can kind of recover what we had there. Okay, so the culprit right here is this. Right there. So what I need to do is move this back into here. Okay, so now we're safe, right? But here's the trouble. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my mouse right here. Okay, so my mouse is going to be right here, because as soon as I plug my Leonardo back in, once I plug the Arduino back in, what's going to happen? Well, the code that was running on this, that mouse is going to just start running on its own. So I want to make sure my mouse is on the upload button. And as soon as that happens, we should be set. Fingers crossed. Okay, you see that? I plugged it in and now it's uploading. And now we should have mouse control back. All right, now look at that. Mouse control is back. Now, let's see, I'll just put my mouse over the verify button and I'm gonna press this and it presses it once. All right, control is back. Okay, so hopefully we drove home the whole idea of having it in this protection here. Now, so far, I've been able to get myself out of these runaway situations by just working at it. You know, eventually I'm able to kind of like upload a blank sketch or something like that. But we had a commenter on the YouTube channel, Scott Frazier, and he presented a really easy way to kind of get yourself out of this situation. So what you can do is you just unplug your Arduino, you adjust your sketch so that it's not going to have that runaway situation. And then what you do when you plug your Arduino board in, all you do is you hold down the reset button while you plug it in. And while you're holding the reset button, the Arduino sketch is not going to run. And then simultaneously, while letting go of the reset button, you also click upload. And what's going to happen is it's going to upload that new sketch to your board, and you should be back in a good situation to keep on moving forward. So big shout out to Scott for bringing this to my attention. Super helpful. So we've talked about mouse click. Now let's talk about mouse move. All right, so mouse move takes 3 arguments. It wants to know how much to move on the X direction, the Y direction, and if your mouse has a wheel, you can move or scroll that wheel, so like the scroll direction. So I'm going to go ahead and define some values for this, and then we'll talk about it. All right, so I decided to change up the naming here from the axis to direction. I feel like that's better naming. Anyway, these values for move, the arguments that we need to pass into move, they need to be characters. And a character can hold 8 bits, and it's a signed value. And in this case, we can pass from -128 to +127. And depending on that value, it's going to affect where or how much that is your mouse moves. Now, what's important to understand about the positive and the negative. So the x-axis is pretty straightforward, all right? And it's all dependent on where your mouse currently is, all right? So if I say I want the x direction to be 100, it's gonna look at where my mouse currently is. So let's say my mouse is right here on this little dot next to input. It's gonna move it to the right 100. Now, I'm not sure if the unit of measurement here is pixels or what that unit of measurement is, but whatever that unit of measurement is, it's gonna move it 100 of those units to the right. If this was a -100, based on where my mouse was, it would move it 100 units to the left. Now for the Y direction, a positive value will move Y down, which is a little, you wouldn't expect that, right? You might think Y would kind of go up if you had like, you know, a Cartesian graph or something like that. But in this case, a positive Y moves you down. So if my cursor's right here, if I had 100 direction, it'd go down 100. If it was a negative, then it would go up 100. All right, so right now I've got them both as positive. X direction is 100, Y direction is 100, and I've just set the wheel equal to 0, and I've set this mouse move up. So let's go ahead and upload this code. All right, so I have this uploaded. I'm gonna I'll put my mouse right on this little dot right here. And so where are you expecting my mouse to go? Where do you think it's gonna be after I press the button? Just think about that for a second. All right, so I'm about to press it. I think it's gonna move to the right and then down. Now notice I've got a little delay in here. This way, you know, we don't have it move a ton of times, but just once. So let me press this button. Okay, did you see that? It moved right and down. It triangulated, and now it's right there. Let's do that again. If I press it again, you see it's all based on where your mouse currently is. It's kind of cool. All right, now, what if we didn't have this delay in here? What would happen then? What do you think? All right, if we don't have the delay in here, what's probably gonna happen is, I'm guessing, when I press this button, this mouse move is gonna, you know, it's gonna get called like a bunch of times, right? Because this loop is so tight, it's just running super fast. So this mouse move is going to get called a bunch of times. And before I know it, my mouse is going to be like way down here at the bottom of the screen. So let's see what happens. Oh, I didn't upload it. That's a key thing you got to do. Upload your code when you change it. All right, so here I am. Bam, like where's my mouse? Look, the toolbar at the bottom opened up because my mouse ended up all the way over here. So you can do that. Here, I'll do it one more time. I'll put my mouse up there, press the button. And then look at that. Before I know it, my mouse, it's like way down over here. So that's the whole, the delay thing. And it can be a little tricky. Okay, so that's mouse move. But you know what? Let's try a negative number in here. Let's try a negative number. Upload it. Now I'm going to put my mouse right here in the center. I'm going to expect my mouse to move right and then up. So let's see what happens here. Oh, see, I forgot the delay. And so it ended up way up over here. So let me put that delay back in. How quickly I forget these things. All right, mouse in the middle, uploaded. There we go. It's doing what I expected. All right, hey, that's pretty cool. Now, what if I wanted to move it all the way across the screen, though? What could I do? How could I get move to happen over and over again for multiple times? Well, I could just put the move in a for loop. Oh, we could do that real quick. Let me do that. All right, so I wrote this little for loop. I've got us going through this 10 times. And so mouse.move should be called 10 separate times. So that should move this 1,000, right? 10. So X should move way over, and Y, if we're calling that 10 times, it should move up 100 units. Now, if you're wondering like what all this for loop stuff is, these if statements, you can check out our website. We actually have a training program on teaching you how to program with Arduino. So it kind of demystifies a lot of this stuff if you're wondering what some of these code structures are, and just some of these functions. Anyway, if you're interested in that, feel free to check out our website. All right, so here I am. I'm going to go ahead and put my mouse up here on number 7, and I've uploaded this. I'm going to press the button, and I'm expecting my mouse to end up over here. Let's see what happens. All right, and there it is. Okay, so that's how we can extend. Because you know what, man, 128 to negative 128 to 127 doesn't seem like much movement, but put it on a for loop, and then you can get your mouse moving wherever you need to. Okay, so that is mouse move. Let's go ahead and check out mouse press and mouse release. All right, so here's mouse press and mouse release. Now, mouse press, as you might expect, presses down on your mouse. So it simulates a button press on your mouse, and mouse release releases that press. If you don't call the release function, then mouse press is going to be continually pressing down. Now you can actually specify what mouse button you want pressed. If we go over to the Arduino website and check out the documentation, we can see that the parameters for the button that you want to press is mouse left, mouse right, and mouse middle. So a left press is the default. A right press, you can also add, or a middle press. So like a left press is just, me clicking the screen. A right press in the Arduino IDE looks like this. It could look like whatever anywhere else. Some contextual, it brings up a contextual window for me. So I'm just going to use the default here. Now, if you line it up so that it's mouse press and then immediately mouse release, this is essentially like click. So I'm going to go ahead and upload this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my mouse over the verify button. And when I press the button on my kit on a shield, I should expect it to press down and then release. So I'm expecting a click is essentially what I'm expecting. All right. And it did it. You can see. So now I can save. I can do whatever I could normally do with a mouse click. But if I change this to mouse right, it'll open up that contextual message. Let's try it. All right, so I'll just put my mouse, or I guess it doesn't really matter where it is. Well, let me upload it first. All right, so I'll just put my mouse right here, and we'll see it opens up that contextual message. Now, wait a second. What's going on? Everywhere I click, this contextual message is following me around. What is going on here? Well, check this out. This is kind of confusing, but mouse press has pressed the right mouse button. Mouse release released the default mouse button, the left mouse button. So if we look at the documentation for release, you see you have to pass in the button that you want to release. So that seems a little, you'd think maybe, hey, it'll release it all, but it won't. So let's go ahead and try to get my cursor here. I'm going to use my keyboard here, and I'm going to get my cursor in here, and I'm going to change this to mouse right. Upload that using keyboard shortcuts here. It's Control U to upload a sketch. All right, so it should be uploaded now. When I do it, I should be able to, it should press mouse right. So I should get that contextual message, but then we should immediately release mouse right. So let's see what happens here. All right, so now I've got mouse right and I've added a delay in here. So now what's happening when I've uploaded it, now when I press somewhere, you can see the contextual message comes up, it doesn't follow me around, and I can click off of it. Just like that. All right, so that's pretty cool. Straightforward enough, right? You can press things. Now I wonder if we could set it up so that we could press and then move a window. I'm going to try doing that. So basically my thought is, hey, let's do a press, then let's do a X or like a Y move, and see if we can adjust the position of that window. Let's give it a shot. All right, so what do I have here? Well, when I press the button, I want the mouse to press down. And since we're not passing a parameter, the default is going to be the left mouse button. So this presses the left mouse button. It moves the mouse down on the Y axis. So that's going to move Y down. And then it's going to release that default button press. So I'm expecting the behavior. I'm going to put my mouse up here. I'm expecting it's going to do that. Let's see what happens here. I'm kind of curious. All right, it's uploaded. Go ahead and press this key. Hey, it worked. That's pretty cool. We'll do that again just for fun. Cool. All right. Well, I mean, you can kind of see how you can link these things together, assuming you've got your mouse in a good position. It's got a starting point. Then you can kind of just start doing some cool stuff. All right. Finally, we're going to talk about mouse is pressed. All right. So now we're going to check out this mouse is pressed function. So what the mouse is pressed button does is it returns a true if the mouse.press button was called, and it returns a false if the mouse.press button has not been called, like currently, right? So let's say I call mouse.press and we just pass in the default value. And I want to check if mouse.press is currently being pressed by our USB library. Then I can use the mouse is pressed function to tell me, hey, yeah, it's been pressed. It will return a 1 if it is being pressed and a 0 if it's not being pressed. So right now, digital read, so when we press the button, we're going to also press the mouse, and then we should see the serial print, and we should see a 1 in the serial monitor. So let me go ahead and we're using the serial print function. I need to add serial begin. Let me do that, and then we'll test this out. All right, so here's the serial monitor. I'm going to go ahead and press the button, and we should see, I'm expecting 1s to be printed down here when I press. All right, so there's our 1 because the mouse has been pressed. Well, let's turn the mouse off and then print it again and see what we get. If you're wondering, yeah, I just got myself stuck again. So what I'm going to do is unplug my Leonardo board here. So my Arduino's unplugged. Now I got mouse control back because the button had been pressed. And I am going to go ahead, plug my Arduino back in. And since I had it in this enable here, I'm safe. I can just unplug it and plug it back in. And now we haven't gotten in here yet. So, all right, so let me go ahead and add this mouse release and that serial print. All right, so got the serial monitor open back up. So when we're going to press the button with the USB library here. We'll press the mouse button. We're going to print. We're expecting a 1 like we got last time. Then we're going to release that left mouse button. We're going to print again. We should expect a 0. Let's see what happens here. I'm going to go ahead and press the button. There we go. There's our 1 and our 0. All right. Okay. Now you might be led to think that you can capture the mouse press like from your other mouse. Like let's say, you're going to have a mouse or a trackpad or whatever attached to your computer. This mouse is pressed is not going to tell you whether or not the mouse on your computer has been pressed or not. It's only going to be able to tell you information about these function calls right here for press and release. Cool. All right. Well, that is all the functions here. We covered mouse click, mouse press, mouse release, mouse move, and mouse is pressed. And then we mentioned that mouse begin and mouse end. They're not even implemented, so you don't got to use them too much. So now what I want to do is I want to open up a program that I was working on in the previous lesson. We were talking about using the keyboard library, and now I'm going to add some mouse commands to that to make it even easier for me to run that program. So let me go ahead and open up that program, and I'll make a couple changes. All right, so what we have here is a little program that allows me to put some input into a terminal. So basically it's printing the word clear. It does a keyboard, it presses return, and then it prints in a file name and presses return again. And what this is helping me do, if you're wondering like, what the heck is this? If I've been doing some Python development lately, and if I'm running unit tests, I often have to run a separate like shell open, and I have to run these commands over and over and over again. And if I could have a button press to do that, it's really pretty handy. And this works pretty good, so I had it working, so I've got this uploaded right now. So with the press of a button, I can input those commands and it runs the code test for me, which is helpful. But what I want to do now is I want to add it. So, because usually if I'm over in VS Code doing some development, I have to take my mouse over to the other terminal, or I've got another monitor that is, so I got to drag my mouse over to the other monitor. Then I have to click the screen, to activate it so that when I press the button, the cursor is going to be added here and the code will go in. Well, what I want to do is modify my program here so that all I have to do is I'll be over on this window, but when I press the button, my mouse is going to move all the way over to my other monitor. It's going to click that terminal. So it'll click that terminal and then it's going to run that typing stuff. So all I should have to do is press a button. And you know what? Maybe I'll even do it. I'll do it so that then once it's entered this, it's going to bring my mouse and stuff back. Oh, that's nice. So I won't even have to bring my cursor back. All right, let me write some code and we'll see if it works. All right, so what did I do here? Well, I've got it set up so that when I press the button, so we enter the loop, right? And when I press the button, these different keyboard commands are going to take over. And so what's going to happen? Well, the first thing, I want to move the mouse to the far right. So normally I have two monitors set up side by side. This monitor that you're looking at right now is on the left, and then I've got another monitor on the right. So usually I'm writing code in here and I need to move my mouse all the way to the other monitor. And the other monitor is where I have a terminal open, looks like this. And so this should get my mouse all the way over to that terminal. Then I want to click, that's going to select the terminal window. Then I print some stuff in here using the keyboard library, and then I move my mouse back. All right, so let's see if this works. Let me upload it again. And you'll notice I put some delays in the move so we can kind of see it move. Not long delays, but all right. So my mouse is right here. Pretend I'm writing some code in here. I go ahead and press my mouse. So the mouse comes over, enters it, and then moves back. And then it's right back here. It just walks right back over. And all I have to do is press a button. I tell you what, that's pretty fun. Press it. I know you can't see it, but it enters it, does the test, and then walks itself right back. That's so fun. I don't know. I think these USB libraries are so much fun. It's like, I don't know, you find yourself doing a repetitive task. Hey, it's nice to have some tools to kind of work with that potentially. Well, thank you so much for watching this episode. I hope you found it useful. I hope you come away with this feeling like you can use this mouse library. If you haven't yet, definitely check out that keyboard library. Walks through in a similar fashion the keyboard library, some of the ins and outs. Definitely subscribe to the show. We'd love it if you'd like it, and if you enjoyed the show, please leave a comment. And if you're interested in learning how to use Arduino, how to program it, understand the board, that kind of thing, definitely check out the description. We have a link that links to our training program. Finally, are you wondering about this picture here at the end? If you send us a photo of yourself working on an Arduino project to bench@programmingelectronics.com, you might just see a rendition of you and your workspace right here. Thanks a ton and have a great one. Bye.